Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. In today's video here, we're going to talk about Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 1. So I was lucky enough to go to the Summer's Game Fest over in California, and I got some hands-on time with MK1 and Sub-Zero. Now, granted, it was very limited amount of time, so I can't do a full exploration of every single character and tell you what they're all about, but I had enough time to at least get a good hang of everything Sub-Zero. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about special moves, his regular moves, and just some Sub-Zero-isms, if you will. So a thing to note here, out of the gate, is this Sub-Zero specifically is not the Sub-Zero from most of the other games. Like, yes, he has all sorts of ice powers, don't worry. Him freezing you up is going to be a thing that's going to happen a lot, right? This Sub-Zero, though, is the original Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 1. Not this Mortal Kombat 1, the other Mortal Kombat 1. There are two Sub-Zero brothers, Bi-Han and Kuai Liang. Kuai Liang is the Sub-Zero you know from Mortal Kombat 2 onwards for the rest of the franchise. Bi-Han is the Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat 1. So this Mortal Kombat 1 and the other current new Mortal Kombat 1. And the thing is, unlike his brother that's been in most of the games, Bi-Han's a bit of a jerk. He is the character that would eventually go on to become Noob Saibot. So he is still Sub-Zero in this current rendition of the game, but he still has that nasty attitude.
You are pathetic and weak.
So this doesn't necessarily affect gameplay in any way, but I think it's just something interesting to point out. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's not necessarily a good guy either in this game. So that said, now let's talk about the gameplay. Can he still freeze people? Yepper. So Ice Ball, Freeze, guaranteed combo after the fact, that is still definitely a go. We're not changing the classic formula here. Works the way you remember it. If they do something from full screen that's stupid, you freeze them and then you get some guaranteed damage in. Naturally, you can meter burn and enhance the move. This time around, it does a little bit more damage, just negligible. It is a true mid, the EX version, therefore that means you cannot neutral duck it, otherwise you will get frozen. And I was told explicitly it also destroys all other projectiles. So good in Fireball Wars. Old rule still applies. If you freeze someone that's already frozen, it just bounces off. It's difficult to combo into. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but difficult in my limited time. But comboing into a freeze, as it were, has now been relegated to a different move. Also, it's fluff, but I just like when the ice ball is blocked, it just kind of falls to the ground, like blip. As for other special moves, Slide returns because of course it does. And being Bi-Han this time around, it's a much nastier looking move. Like he slides and then impales you with an ice spear. Not too much to say that you wouldn't expect. It's very fast and it is indeed a low. So will he random you out with this all the time? Probably. Doubly so, his 50-50 package from MK11 is still here. So there's going to be a lot of high lows. The enhanced version of Slide does less damage, however, it is armored, and it's frame 1 armor as far as I can tell, so it's a defensive move. And hey, speaking of defense, my friends, Ice Clone is indeed back. One of the most hated and feared moves in Mortal Kombat history, back in all of its glory. Simple as, he does the Ice Clone, and if you touch it, then you're frozen, he'll get a full combo. He can do it on the ground, and he can do it while jumping in the air as well. And Mortal Kombat 1 being extra fancy, you can enhance it, and you get 3 clones instead. And if you touch any one of those 3 clones, then you just kind of bounce into all of them. And of course, naturally, free combo for Sub-Zero after the fact. So this seems really strong, right? And yes, it is. It is really strong. Is there any weakness? Well, the one thing with clone returning is it doesn't quite last as long as it used to. As you can see here with the real-time footage, it's up for like a second and change, right? So it's not going to just sit there and dominate the screen forever and then form the rest of the matchup from there. It's basically you're going to figure out if it got you or not really fast. That said, I would rather this than them removing clone from the game, again, like they did in MK11. It's such an iconic move for the character, and I'm very happy that it did return. Now, to file under sort of returning, he has a dive kick now. Now, Sub-Zero never really had a dive kick, but Cyber Sub-Zero sort of had a dive kick. And regardless, either way you want to swing it, he definitely has a frosty dive kick for you now in MK1. Being able to change your jump angle, always strong in any fighting game. And I was told if you're quick enough and depending on the angle, you might actually be able to get a combo follow-up. So really, really good. Also, the enhanced version turns into a ground pound that launches the enemy. And naturally, if you launch the enemy, you can indeed get a combo follow-up. I'm sure you can get much, much more elaborate than this, but once again, I had very limited time with the game, but still, I think that's very interesting and, pardon the pun, cool enough. Now, the new move we have here is Deadly Vapors. So he kind of raises like a little bit of an ice ground spike, and it doesn't freeze you, but it sort of slows you. Like whatever you're doing, you'll be temporarily halted, and then you can keep moving. And the very interesting thing about this move is, as far as I can tell, it cannot miss. If you are on the ground, it auto tracks. You can't run past it or anything. If you're on the ground, it'll just automatically hit. Now, it does not hit airborne foes in any way, shape, or form, but if you're grounded, it's gonna connect. It doesn't do much damage. This is more of a harassment move, but still, it's really good utility. Seems like you're using this move more to annoy and frustrate your opponent into making mistakes than a game plan in and of itself. The enhanced version of this move gets the slowdown effect a lot longer, basically replacing Ice Ball and combos, as it'll hold people in place long enough for you to go into whatever combo you're going to go into and then, well, combo out. Very strong move for sure. Another new move for Sub-Zero is the Ice Clone Charge, and it's not that he's throwing the Ice Clone at you, he's making an all-new Ice Clone and projecting it at you. So it's very different, also very reminiscent of Noob Saibot. As Noob Saibot is, he knows a thing or two about throwing clones at people, let's put it that way. It also helps that a bunch of his normals are also reminiscent of Noob Saibot normals and strings as well, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so Bi-Han, he's been throwing clones at people ever before he was Noob Saibot, let's just put it that way. So it's a traditional projectile for Sub-Zero, a character that generally doesn't have one. You know, he has the Ice Ball, sure, but not a normal fireball. It doesn't quite go full screen. However, the enhanced version does go full screen. Also has quicker travel time. It does the same damage whether it's enhanced or not, making me believe perhaps there's an additional property, like maybe it destroys fireballs along the way, I'm not sure. One thing to note as well, it's a mid, therefore you cannot neutral duck it like many fireballs in Mortal Kombat. So if they keep ducking in neutral, say to try to avoid the Ice Ball, and you don't want to spend meter on enhanced Ice Ball, meterlessly, here's a big advancing mid projectile they can't neutral duck, and it will smack them in the head. So that's the special moves. Let's talk some of the normals and strings. So if you just saw Ice Clone, you saw the big mid projectile clone as well, you might think this is a slower, more gentler Sub-Zero. No, he got a taste of blood in MK11 and he's not stopping. We got some stupid things like his strings. So we got some guys here. This is 1-2-2. So the third hit of this string is an overhead. Therefore you have to block high, naturally, right? And other strings like 2-1-2. So the third hit of this guy is also an overhead, and he whips you with like a skull ice mace, like a spinal cord attached to a skull, but it's made of ice because Bi-Han's a weird jerk like that. So yeah, we got overhead enders, but the thing is both these strings right before the overhead, you can special cancel them. So after the first two hits, it's immediately guess high-low. Like, am I going to go for the string ender that's an overhead, or I'm going to go for my slide, which is a low? You just literally have to guess which. So that 50-50 nonsense from MK11 is still very much alive in his blood. Not the least of which is this nonsense. This is back 2. So back 2 is an overhead. It is a meterless launcher. So you get a full combo if this connects. And not only that, so it's the second hit that launches the enemy, right? The first part of it, the first hit is special cancelable. So you can go into whatever special move. And also you can call cameos while doing this. And by the way, back 3 is still a low and it's still special cancelable. So overhead low madness, that is very much on the menu for Sub-Zero. So anywhere on the screen, low overhead, big combos, thanks to the air combos and all that. He has air juggles that work out very easily for him. You're going to have to guess a lot. Besides that, I just think his sweep looks really cool. Whipping you with that spinal skull ice flail. Also, the range seems pretty respectable as well, right? So just the aesthetics, the visuals are really good. By the way, his down one seems to have incredible range. Like, I'm talking like Devora style range, so watch out for that. But basically, Sub-Zero seems to have the aspects of both NRS era Sub-Zeros kind of mixed together. Defensive and offensive. He still has full combos from lows, full combos from overheads. He's able to switch overhead low between you mid-string, but he still has clone and the omega defensive properties that entails, as it can control a lot of the screen very easily. He has a gigantic mid-hitting projectile. Like, he seems to cover a lot of bases. And finally, what I'll leave you with here is the full move list and all the frame data and details. Now keep in mind, this is all very subject to change. Don't expect anything you see here to be final, but still, here is all that info. So what I will say about this version of Sub-Zero, and I think this is a triumph of Mortal Kombat 1 compared to some other Mortal Kombats, is yes, he has all these 50-50 mix-up gimmicks. Yes, he has all these very strong defensive properties that control the screen. He gets both. Why? Because he's a full and complete character. There's no variations. He just gets everything out of the gate. This version of Sub-Zero is very exciting to me and also gives me hope for so many other characters. If they're making Sub-Zero this complete and this full-fledged, that he's strong at multiple aspects of the game, he's not just a rushdown mix-up character, he's not just a defensive character, he's both. That gives me a lot of hope for the other characters to just see how full, varied, and complete they're all going to be as well. So that said, once again, I had very limited amount of time. I would love to have full breakdowns for every single character for you in this build of the game, but unfortunately that's not really feasible. Hopefully I can get more time with the game later down the road. But for now, I hope you enjoy the info I had to give you, and otherwise, well, we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Mortal Kombat.